So if the client or the student choose the right course, one advantage is the spouse can work full time. So
Okay.
student can work 20 hours, so part time during the course. On the breaks, they can work for 40 hours a week or
Okay.
whatever. They're free to work, no limit. But the spouse can apply for open work permit and work full time this entire time that the main applicant is studying.
So that's one good reason to find a spouse then. Okay, so then let's put the joke aside and then talk about like how to apply for a study permit. Like, yeah, I mean, you need a study permit to come to Canada and study. So what kind of documents like do they need to provide or prepare?
You can step in and tell them what kind of documents.
Sure. So it may seem simple on the surface, but each client will have to provide things like ID documents, including passport, of course, things like marriage certificate if they are married, their children. If they have children, their children will accompany them, children's birth certificate showing that they're the children of the principal applicants. Aside from ID documents, things like immigration medical exam may be required, police certificate may be required. Of course, the letter of acceptance from the school is the main document that's required to be eligible in the first place. Apart from that, there's things like previous education documents from most recent study. And one thing that may not be explicitly asked for, but everyone should provide, is a study plan. So a study plan helps IRCC understand why you want to come to Canada, and which may not be apparent to them in only the application form or the documents you provide. So they want a clear idea of why you want to come to Canada, why you want to study in that program, and the study plan helps them show that in their application.
Okay.
It's pretty much telling the student story. So where student come from, background, work experience, everything that you already explained, and where the student plan to go. So, and everything in between. So how gonna manage things when in Canada, when studying.
Okay. And then how can an applicant show their like financial abilities to cover the tuition and the living cost?
Bank statements.
Bank statement? Well, what if I don't have enough cash in the bank account, but then I have like maybe a real estate property or stocks?
Everything helps, even though a certain amount they have to show on their bank account that it's available to the student to spend here, cover the costs, pay the school. This is important. They can join with some family member, let's say, that's going to be responsible for some expense, and demonstrate and show their person bank statements and their ability to cover those expenses.
But a couple of points to make would be, one is that the funds have to be readily available.
Yeah.
So while showing property may be useful in showing ties to the home country, having property by itself won't help show that you have funds for tuition available unless you sell the property.
Yeah.
Another thing is that you have to be able to show, if it's bank statements, you should show that the amount that you need, the minimum required amount has been available for several months.
Period of time. Okay.
If it's only suddenly in your account on the day before you apply, and prior to that the bank statements show a very low balance, that's very suspicious. They might think they asked a friend or a family to loan them the money, and then they were going to give it back right away.
Yeah, I understand that, and I think it's a good point. But of course, we have to check every case, because sometimes you have, I don't know, something that just entered to your bank account and cannot be sent it back. So anyway, I don't know, a big payment, like I don't know, you have some unexpected payment, or you know, you can sell one of your properties and have that available. Of course, ideally, we have to work with that situation. Okay, if you have available for several months, it's yours.
Yep.
So
I think, yes, I remember some visa offices, overseas visa offices, they do require applicants to purchase. Is it some sort of like a bond or some sort of security from a Canadian bank?
Right, a certificate of deposit is
Yes.
one thing like that.
So that you have to show it to IRCC, and then you cannot actually withdraw the funds until you come to Canada. Or obviously, if their applications decline, they will be able to get it. But I think this is kind of a document that can be also like helpful.
yeah. What IRCC is trying to avoid is, okay, you get some money and you borrow some money from your friends just for the application, and after the application is approved, you send the money back to your friend. So
Yeah.
it makes no sense.
And
Yeah.
IRCC is already well aware of people trying
Yeah.
to do this.
So yeah, be true, tell the truth. Don't hire anything. Let's work and do the best with what you have available.
Okay.
Don't try to be creative. It's not gonna end well.
So I mean, I trust like our team can help applicants well prepare their application, but certain situations the application can be declined as well.
Yeah.
What can we do at the time? Is it like the end of their case?
It's not the end of the case. Depends the reason. Like if there was something like that, you're trying to cover some facts, you're trying to misleading IRCC, probably you're gonna
The
get
misrepresentation, yes.
yeah, you're gonna get a misrepresentation, and probably
Consequence,
you cannot apply for the next 5 years.
But there's situations where IRCC might give sort of a standard reason for refusal, and it could be something like not showing ties to home country, or they think the reason you want to study is not genuine. So, for example, if it's a tie to the home country, maybe in the first application the client or the applicant didn't show enough documents showing that they have a reason to go back to their home country after they graduate. So in that case, if we reapplied, we could show things like a job offer from someone in their home country, proof of residence or property or family they need to take care of, things like that.
Yeah, depending on the reason, but
Okay.
most of the time, if you didn't lie, if the client didn't lie, didn't try to hire anything, probably we can reassess, check what we can do, and reapply for the student visa.
Okay. So then, even if their application is declined, it's not the end of the world. So
No.
based on the reasons, we can figure out our strategy and then help them reapply. And then in the end, they can get their study permit and successfully come to Canada.
Sure.
So during this COVID, time, can they still come to Canada on a study permit?
It's hard to say. Things are changing very fast.
Okay.
So we had a period that was like the country was closed. No one could get in.
Okay.
For study, for visits, there was like a few exceptions. After a while, they start to be more flexible. But even though what I've seen was like not that flexibility, and now things tend to be more open. Once the person can prove their vaccination,
Okay.
the vaccine was one that Canada recognized as a valid vaccine. They have a good reason to come. As students, school's going to start. Then probably they're not going to have any problem. If they don't have the vaccine, or if they have taken some vaccine that is not approved, they have the option to have a 14 days quarantine, and we have arranged that. But what we are seeing now, this is my perception, Canada has this more open policy now.
Okay.
So we are trying to go back to normal.
Okay.
And a study permit approval letter by itself is essentially a good reason to come to Canada. But if the person's program starts, say, September 1st, and they're trying to come 2 months, 3 months early, CVSA at the border might question why they want to come so early before their program starts, and that could be a problem. But coming a month before shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah.
So now we're in October, so the next semester or the next intake will be when? I guess depending on schools and programs,
depending on schools. But we can aim for January.
Okay.
March, ideally.
Yeah, right now it's about 3 months to process officially.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So a January start date could be possible. It'd be very tight, but ideally March, April, depending on when the spring, summer term starts, would be fine. And September next year would also be fine.
So probably January intake will be
very tight.
Very, very tight. But then if it's like a May, then they can start contacting us and then get some consultation with regards to what kind of programs they want to pursue in Canada, and then start their application so that they can come in time. Or they can, like you said, start aiming for September.
Yeah. So coming to us maybe 6 months before would be good enough, I think, to go for the next term available.
Okay. So I get those kind of questions. So they come, so they start. I mean, obviously, that's after we successfully help their study permit application. But sometimes studying cannot be always easy. So sometimes they have a failed course. Like, what happens? Do they have to leave the country, or do they have to go back to their country?
No, they're not going to become illegals if they fail the course. Even though it's very bad academically and financially too, because it's gonna cost more, they can still keep studying once their student permit is still valid.
Okay.
So if the student permit is about to expire, they have to apply for these students have to apply for renew one.
Okay.
And ideally 30 days before the expiration date.
Okay. I mean, I think still they should do their best to achieve their academic goal, and they're spending big dollars to come to Canada.
And they are here to study.
Yeah.
So their main focus should be study.
Yeah.
But if they have immigration in their mind and they're trying to use a study permit as a way to immigrate, they might get ahead of themselves and think, oh, I'll just pass this, graduate, get a job offer, and eventually immigrate. But they don't realize that it's a real school, real study program in English that they have to pass.
Real exams,
and they have to pass these. They have to graduate to get their certificate, their certification.
Yeah, they have to put themselves all their efforts, take that very seriously. Because if they don't graduate, all the plan goes down. It's not going to work. So they have to graduate is the first step.
Sure.
And after they can start to think about immigration.
Okay.
And getting back to your failing a class question, it is, like Tom mentioned, it is possible to continue. Your study permit won't suddenly be invalidated. Yeah, because there's two aspects to take into consideration. One is the school's policies regarding failed courses, and one is the immigration side. So for the school, if you want to be eligible for a postgrad work permit, you have to make sure that you continue to be a full-time student. If you fail too many times, you might be on probation, you might be suspended. That might affect your ability to apply for a postgrad work permit.
Okay.
But the study permit won't suddenly become invalid if you fail a class.
Okay. But I mean, obviously still, again, like students, they should focus on their study and try not to, take advantage of the system. Mm-hmm. And, one day they might get caught too. So,
yeah. No, schools are not going to help them to jump ahead. So they're going to have to take the tests, and they're going to have to pass the
just
exams.
like anyone else.
Yeah, they
like
cannot fail. Yeah.
Okay. So then I have some other question. So during their study, studying in Canada, can they leave their country? Can they leave Canada? Visit their family in their in home country, or travel to the United States, for example?
Temporarily, yes.
Okay.
What they have to understand is a student permit. It's not a visa. Student permit, it allows students to study in Canada while they're here. So a visa, it's the document that allows you to enter the country.
Okay.
Just have to be aware that your student visa, your visa, if you have one, it's still valid, but you can leave and come back once it does interfere with your course. You still have to take your classes at the proper time.
Okay.
Yes, and the study permit document itself even says in big letters at the bottom, this does not authorize re-entry into Canada. So it's important for the applicant to realize they need a valid visa to come back to Canada if they leave, if they're from a country that requires a visa.
So then do they need to like apply for two different documents? Like visa and the study permit?
Initially, at first, no.
Okay.
Once they apply for the study permit, they will automatically be given a visa if the permit is approved.
Okay.
So that's to enter Canada at first. However, there might be a case where they need to renew their study permit and their visa has a different validity. In that case, they have to make sure their visa is valid if they're leaving Canada.
Okay.
What I've seen, it's because it is happen everywhere. So your visa cannot exceed the expiration date of your travel document, your passport.
Okay.
And sometimes your time here it's longer, and you still can have that visa, but your visa is gonna have the limitation of your travel document.
Like
That could happen.
the expiry date of the passport.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So then, for students who are already in Canada, but like Craig said, so their visa expired, how can they apply? Where they can apply? Do they have to go back to their home country to get the visa again?
Good question. So they can apply online from inside Canada.
Okay.
They could also leave Canada first and apply from their home country. That's not necessarily recommended because it might take much longer to process than their trip is going to be. They are allowed to be in Canada with an expired visa as long as they know they will need a valid one to leave and come back.
Okay.
But they can apply online. It's fairly easy to do. It's not too expensive, and it can be issued while they are still in Canada.
And then I know like students in Canada, when they want to travel to like the US, like in certain situations they may not need a visa to come back. Is that true, Craig?
That's right, yeah. So if the person is traveling only to the US, they are allowed to come, they may be allowed to come back into Canada with an expired visa, as long as their permit is still valid and they have reason to come back to Canada.
Should students rely on that?
I think, yeah. I
Maybe
mean,
no.
yeah, it's just, I mean, I guess, depending on individuals. But if for me, I would prefer always having a valid visa.
Yeah, why take the risk?
Yeah.
Why? If it's easy and cheap to renew your visa.
Okay. So having said that, also like you said, the study permit may expire during their study. What do they need to do in that case?
They need to renew their study permit. If they are not finished yet, even if they only have one semester left, they need a study permit to continue studying.
Okay.
Prove they are still at school, they're still enrolled, they're still studying, and
Okay. Do they still need to provide like the study plan or the financial documents, just like their initial study permit application?
Yeah, it would be even though it's a renewal and extension, it's still considered another complete application that they must do, and they need to show letter of acceptance showing that they're still a student who still wants to study and complete their program.
Okay.
but we're gonna have track, so we can work with the same with the previous letter and say, okay, we're following this path. We already applied before this happened, so we're gonna tell the entire story.
Okay. So the last question, like study permit, is it like closed, meaning that like there are conditions attached, so you can only study at a certain school or study on a certain program, or can they transfer to another school? If that's the case, do they need to apply for another study permit? This question is long, I know.
Yeah, good question.
Who can answer me?
Most of the time, I'm going to
Okay.
give you the general idea, and Craig can go for the exceptions. but generally you've been accepted for one school that you should go and study that school, finish your school at that institution.
Okay.
So this is the general idea.
Okay.
So everything that is going to happen outside that, we need to inform and see how if your visa is gonna still be valid.
That's the key is that generally if it's the same level of study, you don't need a new study permit. But regardless, you do need to inform IRCC online that you're changing schools.
Okay.
Hi guys, thank you very much for watching the video. If you have any questions, just send us an email in this address here and we're gonna assist you.